Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee. Over there is Cody in the corner, and of course, alongside me, Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Nodos? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know. And one edition that we love to do every single year is take a look back at the last 3 years, because that's how long it takes for a player to develop, usually around there. We're going to look at 2020 NFL Draft and review it and go over like who we think the busts and the booms happened.
Actually, but before we do, we got to tell you guys to like the video, absolutely, and go to our YouTube page and subscribe, hit the like button too as well, and share the videos too as well. We really appreciate it when you guys go and sign up, and that way you'll be in the know as well and be notified whenever we go live. And then also check out some older videos that we have out there as well. Now, you know, those are archived videos. We have the new Football on the Know show with Cody over there in the corner now. So it's very exciting now. It's season 6, so we'll have a lot to get to this upcoming season. But yeah, we are going to do the 2020 hit or miss there, Joe. And Cody's going to lead us off in this one. Why don't we do this? Why don't we hit some playback, like music in the background? How about that? Let's get it like really moving here. How about that? Boy. All right, let's go. Let's hit us up with some music here. All right, Cody, give us our first one here. Oh, first of all, the pick right there. There it is. Everybody knows that one, right?
Yeah. We had a first pick in the draft. We had Joe Burrow going to the Bengals. I think we're starting off pretty... Oh, the camera. Should probably change that in a minute. But we're starting off pretty easy with that one. I mean, Joe Burrow's already led the team to the Super Bowl once. Second season, almost got back. He's their franchise QB going forward. There's not much more than that.
No, I mean, Joe Burrow. It's a very easy decision. They definitely hit on that pick for sure. A lot of people in Cincinnati are very, very happy fans right now. A guy that's absolutely killing it right now has 82 touchdowns, 31 picks up to this point in his career. Very young career, over 11,000 passing yards. So he's killing it there, to say the least.
Who we talk about? Joe Burrow? Joe. Yeah. No, you know what? It was funny because his career started out where, you know, who knows when it happened, because he got the injury early. So he, you know, we'll see how he's going to bounce back from that. And continuously right after that, especially even after he ended up having Jamar Chase, that really turned it on for him. And then, you know, this team, you know, hit their stride early. We thought they would potentially be a very good team, but they caught fire quick. And look how quick they made it to, you know, the Super Bowl right here. And, you know, this year made a real push again and just came up short once again. But kudos to them. And Joe Burrow, yeah, it looks like the real deal after, you know, he had to transfer in college to LSU. And before that, people might not even known him that much. You know what I mean? If he didn't go and make that move to become that starter over there for LSU.
Yeah, I mean, because he was with Ohio State originally. Was supposed to be the starting quarterback that year, but they gave the nod to C.J. Stroud. So he was like, well, it's my last year of college. I got to go play somewhere to prove myself. So transfers to LSU, and the rest is history. The unique thing for Joe Burrow is the situation he went into. That team was ready to win pretty much, or start winning at least. They already had a good receiving core, you know, pretty much before Jamar Chase got there. And then they had other players that were built around him. Usually a quarterback of his stature, being that high pick, number 1 overall, doesn't get that luxury of coming into a team that actually has some weapons to throw to, has a stellar running back behind him to hand the ball off to, you know what I mean, or a halfway decent defense. So they were only missing a few pieces. Obviously, offensive line got better, and they added Chase later on, but came into a pretty good situation, and that's kind of what led him to like kind of take right off right away.
Yeah. All right, so with our second pick in the draft, this is where we're going to get more into the definition of a hit or miss for us. We have Chase Young that went to the Commanders. Now, if we're just talking straight talent, I guess you could say hit, but I'm going to lean more in the direction of miss for this one. He's barely played over the 3 seasons. He played in, I think, 10 games now over the last 2 seasons or something like that. Nothing real great. When you got the second pick, yeah, Chase Young's a superstar, but you also got to play. You got to be on the field.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this pick here. Second overall, Chase Young, like, talent-wise, when he came out, like, everybody was like, dude's going to be stellar. He's going to be a monster on the edge. And a lot of, I believed it when he came out. I'm like, yeah, this guy's going to be legit. But due to injuries and everything, he just hasn't been able to stay on the football field. And surprisingly, Cody, he's played 27 games.
Most of them in the first season?
But not a lot to show for it.
Yeah.
So that when you look at stats for edge, I know everybody goes to the sack category. But like, oh, well, how many sacks do you have? Well,
Yeah.
not that, nothing really. Like 9 sacks total, and that's leading up to currently now. So, for a guy that was drafted that high, a guy that was supposed to be a difference maker at that DN position for the Washington Commanders now,
Yeah, back then they were the Redskins.
it's
so how about that?
not looking good. So for me, because of his unavailability on the football field and to be able to take over games like he was supposed to, it's a miss for me as well.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. He's one of those guys that started off hot. That's what I mean. If you go after his rookie year, and that's what I mean. They made a playoff push right there and really put the pressure on Tom Brady in the Bucs. I think in the playoffs there, and it was tough. And it looked like maybe that second season you were going to see more of this team. And they were trying to figure out the quarterback situation. That's when they did get Ryan Fitzpatrick, and you thought maybe they were going to make a push, defense be the same, but Fitzmagic went down the first week of the season, and that defense looked nothing really like of what we thought it might be. And then also the injury to Chase Young, like we were talking about, really put the nail in the coffin on that. And it seems like even since coming back and being healthy, he hasn't been that same type of difference maker and that type of guy. So I'm going to agree with you guys on that whole sentiment as well. It's just that since then, you haven't seen so much now. So, and being the second pick overall, that's got to kind of make it a bust, I think, at this point.
And he still has a long career ahead of him. So,
Oh, yeah.
like, just based off of right now, that's why this is why we're saying it's a miss.
Yeah.
But he could easily turn his career around. And if he can stay healthy, like, that's always been the big question mark with him now up to this point. If he can stay healthy, turn the corner, and be the guy that he was supposed to be, then it could turn into a hit.
Absolutely. What do we got next, Cody?
All right, with our third pick, we had Jeffrey Okudah being drafted to the Detroit Lions, who was drafted to be, the next big lockdown corner. This man can do everything, man, zone, and that just hasn't happened since he got to the NFL. I think he's developed kind of into like a decent number 2 or 3, but it doesn't really seem like his stock is trending up. He's never going to live up to where he was drafted, in my opinion. So that's a big ol' miss.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Okudah, I had high hopes for him. I thought that he was going to be that next shutdown corner for Detroit. They get their guy in place of Darius Slay, and so disappointing. I mean, he's still young. Maybe he can turn the corner next year or the year after. That's what Detroit's hoping at this point. But a guy that doesn't really impact the game as much as you would think. I thought this guy would have a ton of pass breakups. I thought he would be in the face of every receiver, but sometimes he just seems to get distance too far, and he leaves guys open too easily, and is not as aggressive that we once thought coming into the NFL. So overall, Jeff Okudah, I am sorry, Detroit. I know that you're on the brink of becoming a real good winning team. I just wish Jeff Okudah was better for you, but he is a miss for me as well.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys, too, at the same, everything that you guys have said, too, as well. And especially being picked at that point, it's got to be kind of that difference maker, and he just hasn't been, and that's the thing. So it's got to be a miss for me as well.
All right.
By the way, you guys, too, if you're out there, too, watching, make sure you guys play along with us, too, as well. Tell us in the comments. Light it up in the comments. Let us know what you guys think about the hit and miss on these guys. Let us know, too, in the comments.
Even if you're new to the show or anything, just say hi.
Yeah.
Say what's up. You don't always have to be that much involved, but we do encourage it. We would love for you guys to comment down below. Give us your thoughts on anything that we talk about, or you can simply just, even if you want us to go off topic a little bit and ask a question about anything NFL related, we're here for you. So, and if you haven't been a subscriber on YouTube, please do so. Head over to our YouTube channel, subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. And you can also take us on the go and be in the know on anywhere you get your podcasts. iTunes, Spotify, you name it. We're there. Make sure you drop a follow if you want to do so. Be much appreciated.
Absolutely. Just don't change the subject and talk about Beyond Food. It's not real meat. I don't want to get into it.
What are we talking about now?
Anyways,
All right, we're gonna move on to our fourth pick here in the draft, where the New York Giants selected one Andrew Thomas.
ooh,
Where if you would have asked me maybe last season, I would have been sitting in between, like, I hope he gets better, but he was pretty darn good this last season. He was borderline getting to like a Pro Bowl tackle. I liked what I saw as a Giants fan a lot. So I think at this point, if we see last season's Andrew Thomas, I think we got a good hit.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas, I had him rated pretty high on my draft board. I thought this was a great fit for the Giants, and I think, yes, coming out of college, he still needed a little bit of development, and you saw that his rookie year. You saw him kind of have some miscues in his footwork and his hand placement and so forth. For Thomas, you're starting to see him getting better. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what you want to see. Yes, he was drafted 4th overall, and you're expecting that guy to come in and just be plug-and-play type of player and not have to worry too much. But, yeah, he still needs some development. He looks so much better now than what he was a rookie, and I think that trait is going to continue. So,
all right, yeah. And Andrew Thomas, yeah, we were there. I think it was Katie O'Burns. I think we were at that draft. That was another one we were at because we did the Daniel
Katie
Jones
O'Burns
one,
draft?
but we were also Andrew.
Did we hang out
Thomas?
with that
We were
draft?
there. We were hanging out. I know we were.
Yeah, we've been together for the last couple
we
years.
went to a couple together, and we both kind of looked at each other like Andrew Thomas, like because there was Tristan Wirfs out there and a
we were
bunch of
looking
others
at,
that were kind of
Jedrick
like ready
Wills,
now.
I
And
think.
what was the thing that you knew about Andrew Thomas, or you at least heard like he was maybe a project? You know, he's going to take him a little bit to get going, but it was the New York Giants guy, and you kind of saw that a little bit early on. You're like, oh man, it was sketchy, like you said, Cody, where. Is he going to be the guy? We're not sure, but we did see the maturity. We did see him grow and become something better for them, to where now with the New York Giants, you can't do without him right there at this point. That's one thing that they did hit on. It's just even was sketchy in the beginning, and to where he was picked with all the other talent that was there, it was on the border for a little bit. But the fact that he's still on the team and producing well for them, I think is a hit. Absolutely, sir, with so many drafts that the Giants have missed on.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, guess we'll move on to our next pick here, where we had the 5th pick was Tua. I think it's Tagovailoa. I think I'm saying that right.
Close enough.
Yeah, bit of a
to a T.
when we're
Tua
talking
Tagovailoa.
about hit or miss. It's still
Yeah,
very
say it with
early.
the island vibe there, Cody. Tagovailoa.
Don't screw him up too much. He's in the middle of the sentence.
No, we gotta swap it. No, I'm just kidding.
damn it. Hey,
Yeah, it's a little weird whether we're calling him hit or miss yet, because you've seen so many hot and cold seasons already in just his first couple. He's coming off that big head injury last season. It's a little sketchy. We're not sure what he's gonna be like going forward, if that's gonna continue to affect him. You know, what happens if he keeps getting hurt, keeps getting more concussions? He could have a very early retirement. So I'd say as of right now, I'm gonna say miss on Tua, because at that pick, you want your franchise QB, and Tua just hasn't proven to be a guaranteed franchise quarterback yet.
I'm gonna disagree.
I got one.
5th overall. Yeah, he wasn't ever going to be the number 1 overall pick. He wasn't going to be the top 3 pick. But he ends up going down to 5, and this is with a team that desperately needed to find their future quarterback. Wow. Tua had a lot going for him coming out of college. Yes, he did have that injury bug late in his senior year, and it really kind of crippled his stock. Otherwise, we could be debating he would get picked with the 2nd spot. So for Tua, going into this draft process and being able to try to show the naysayers that, no, I am the legit quarterback, I can be for the future, give me a shot. Like Miami really they fell in love with him. It only takes one team to do so. And for Tua, what he's been able to show, yes, early in his career, they kind of played games, right? Like there was like musical chairs with Tua and then Ryan Fitzpatrick and who's the starter. 1 week it's Ryan, the next week it's Tua. If you want the guy to become your franchise quarterback, you need to let him develop in and on the field. So for Tua, for him to kind of battle through all of that and then finally get a legit shot recently now in his career, he's starting to prove to people that, yeah, I do deserve to be a starting quarterback. I am the franchise quarterback for Miami. And he's shown enough, I believe, that now he can take them to the next level. Look at this as recent as last year on how well he was playing. Yes, the concussions were definitely a concern and still are. But his productivity last year alone was really helping his team. Obviously, they upgraded at a lot of different positions last year. And you saw like what Miami could possibly become had they all been able to stay pretty much healthy. And for Tua, I would say this, like career-wise, his career is going to be impacted if he gets another concussion. Like that, he had way too many in a short amount of time. And if Tua does, in fact, get another serious concussion this year, it might be time to call it a career. Because now you're getting into that realm of uncertainty and maybe life being taken away, and you never want that for anybody. So for Tua and his concerns, I hope to God he stays healthy. I hope he never has a concussion again. But we'll have to wait and see what he can do going forward.
We got SWB Pro in the house with us tonight. Let's give a shout out. Says hello, and it's funny because this guy, whoever it might be, lady,
what's going on?
Perhaps
How you doing, bro?
The pro is on the same wavelength as I am, and it basically stole what I was going to get to and say. But said Tua's reminding me of Andrew Luck completely. Played amazing, but those injuries,
right?
And that's what I mean. As you're speaking about it, that's what I was thinking. Like the same type of thing is if it happens this way, if it goes down the way that Andrew Luck did, I would say the one thing though, it's not completely though, because Andrew Luck really was the number 1 overall pick. A high expectations. You didn't have those expectations that you do with, now Tua doesn't have the expectations that you did with Andrew Luck.
Correct.
You know, he already had the injuries ahead of time, and you were just like, oh man, he's injury prone, not sure where he's going to lie in that draft. And you weren't sure, you heard that Miami wanted him, and they happened to have the positioning to get, you know, what they wanted and also get Tua at the same time. So they got their guy still no matter what. But the injuries still play along with him. We are starting to see that he can be productive. And the one question we had about him was, what can he do with some weapons? Well, Miami went out and got shit tons of weapons here for him. So here it is. Let's do it. Tyreek Hill, great weapon to have. And you saw what he did. He flourished in this offense. You know, so it looked really well for them. But the injury bug now, again, plagues itself, rears its dark head. And to touch on the point about the Andrew Luck, is the fact that we might be able to see Tua look really good, but does it damage his career now to where we never really get to see if he was going to be a hit or miss? So we're left confused about, we just didn't know. We just don't know because it's insufficient evidence, I guess, at this point.
I mean, with concussions, they're unpredictable. They're not like your typical injury like an ACL tear or, you know, you blow out your knee, you know. But for Tua, like, it's one of those like sneaky injuries that like we kind of like, man, we all know how serious it is. But at the same point in time, it's not like an injury like that you can like work on to prevent. It's one of these freaky type of things we've seen, you know, with DeMar Hamlin you know, last year, and him having a seizure on the field and everything. That was very, very like heart-wrenching. That was concerning. And these type of things do happen in sports. It's not just football. Yeah. But like they're freaky injuries that happen. So for Tua, in the concussions that he's had, like Miami has to do everything possible to try to keep this guy out of harm's way. Now that whether that's play calling, whether that's because we've seen the 49ers offensive play calling, how they like to utilize the quarterback in the running game. And I say like maybe scrap that from now on. Like you got to protect this guy. So the addition of Tyreek Hill, tremendous. And then the year before that, they drafted Jalen Waddle, tremendous. Like now you're starting to see Miami's offense kind of bloom with Tua. And that's kind of where they needed to get to with him. So Going forward, yes, we're still got to evaluate, and hopefully Tua doesn't get any kind of serious head injuries.
Do you have a
But
head injury?
At the same time, I think this pick is justifiable where he got selected. He is a franchise quarterback. I think it is a hit. It's not like he got drafted. He never showed any signs of being good and then is ousted. So
There we go.
Go get to his comments too, Cody.
Yeah, I was just about to. Before we move off of Tua, he said, I think any more obviously it's the pro,
Yes.
I think any more concussions with Tua's ending his career, so he thinks it would be best for him to practice, but maybe take a year off of playing. I know that's tough on contracts and stuff, but it might be best for him.
yeah, and I think
That's tough.
about
the
taking a
one
year
the
off,
one
though,
thing
too.
I'll say
That's
about
tough.
that is, and this is that was kind of touched on, and you can only imagine the conversation that was had between Tua, his family, and the organization, was that they were everybody is right there in the same room. They're all having this conversation like, okay, what are the major concerns going forward? What is the absolute worst thing that can happen? What's what's the best thing? Like they went through everything and had a big discussion, and they all came about and said, listen. Tua said himself, he goes, I still want to play. Like, I still want to play. Like, I understand the risks. I understand everything. But I want to play and I want to win with this franchise. So the organization is like, okay, but we might have to change a few things with the offense to try to keep you safe, just to prolong your career and to keep you healthy. So I think those conversations already have been had, obviously, and they're moving forward. So hopefully they do the right thing offensively. Hopefully Tua doesn't sustain another crazy head injury, and may him have a long career going forward.
There we go. I guess we'll move on to our next pick.
Next in the draft.
All right, next, speaking of potential franchise quarterbacks, next in the draft, we had one Justin Herbert was selected by the Chargers.
Ooh.
I wasn't super high on Herbert coming out of college, so, that's a miss on my part. But ever since, I'm going to say even his first start on when Tyrod had to come out of that game because of the punctured lung incidents, he's just, I guess, looks different, for lack of a better word. He's looked like a seasoned vet from his first game on. It's been pretty cool to watch. I think the Chargers had an excellent pick here, and I think for years Herbert's going to be their guy. I just hope maybe he can see a little more playoff success.
Right, and that's the thing is like Justin Herbert, this was a guy that not a lot of people had him rated real high. I feel Cody that there was a lot of even so-called experts that had him maybe he's the fourth, maybe he's the fifth best quarterback coming out. For me, I liked him more than the majority. I really had him high up. I had him in the top three. I'm not sure if I quite remember how I had it in order. Herbert definitely wasn't number one. Burrow was my number
If
one.
you guys
That
want
was
to find
easy.
out, just look back at our old videos.
Exactly.
Make sure you like the video and share it.
But other than that, I definitely had him as my top three. So I liked the tape that I saw from him coming out of Oregon. A big physical guy who had mobility. He had the ability to throw accurately and the strong arm at that. For him to go down to 6, though, I thought was kind of crazy. I thought Miami might take Herbert where they were. And instead, obviously they took Tua. But for Herbert to slide to the Chargers, I was like, crap. Being a Raiders fan, I was like, Jesus, really? Of course these guys get their quarterback. And he lit it up. And honestly, when you look at their stats up to this date, 14,000 passing yards. That's 3,000 more than Joe Burrow's thrown already. 94 touchdowns to 35 interceptions. That's better than Burrow. This guy slid to 6, and some people overlooked him, but man, were the Chargers happy when it happened. This was an absolute hit and a half. Got their franchise quarterback, 22 years old and killing it. So good for the Chargers. And there's nothing more to say. The guy's just absolutely destroying the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Justin Herbert, he was part of one of my other plans that I had for the Giants if I was GM, so there's many drafts that came along where I even had, the Giants drafting Lamar Jackson and possibly
Cody,
getting, Nick Chubb in the same draft.
Can you do me a favor? Can you look up the Giants do you remember the quarterback that year?
It was Daniel Jones.
Was it Daniel Jones
Daniel
still?
Jones, because they drafted Daniel Jones the year before that.
Yep.
And that's
He's
the
right.
thing, because
Ugh.
I was going to get to my point is that year I wanted to go all offensive line and stuff, and we were that high up there, do something to just beef up our team, offensive line, edge rusher, it was all there. You know what I mean? The Giants load up on that, and then Herbert get him the next year, because I knew we were going to suck anyways. It might as well build up that offensive line, get it going. Justin Herbert, the type of guy we wanted, and they really liked Daniel Jones, and they went all in on it, and now we're seeing what happens with that. What's funny is because we did our 2019 hit or miss, and at this point, when we looked at Daniel Jones too, we were probably inconclusive on Daniel Jones and giving him a miss. But the way he played this year under a different offense and with not even any weapons, you talk about getting the guys some weapons, they tried to, and it didn't even work because none of them could stay healthy, and Kenny Golladay couldn't do anything. So that shows the difference of what maybe some things offensive coordinators or new head coaches could do for a team and a young player, and where they're drafted and whether they become a hit or miss. But Justin Herbert, I think so. He's been amazing too. And Cody, I think, was kind of touching on the fact that he's cool, collect, and the game just runs through him like it doesn't even bother him. Like he's not even playing the game right now. He has just got that stone cold face out there to try and win, get it done. And the only thing I think that holds him back, I think, is his head coach.
That's very true.
And what does SWB Pro say?
We said Herbert is an S.A. tier. Depends on who you ask, but no doubt a franchise quarterback. And I think it said just hope he doesn't become the next Phillip Rivers. Oh, and put in one more right as I was talking. Said they trade. Oh, talking about the Giants. They trade Tony, which was his main weapon, which sucked for him, but both Tony and Jones had a great year.
Yeah, Tony, whenever he's on the field, but that's what I mean. It sucks when you see some of those guys that don't want to play for your team, or they're injury prone, whatever, and they go on to get success with other teams when, like to go and ride the bandwagon of the coattails of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, the crazy part is that Tony was healthy the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A guy that was healthy, ready to go, they were like, oh, no, we're not going to play you. We're going to trade you. And, he goes with Kansas City Chiefs, and now he just proves himself like, hey, I'm a weapon. I can be utilized.
Yeah. Yep, and they needed him by that time in that Super Bowl. I mean, they needed him because their weapons, were just getting injured.
Exactly. I'm a little surprised that they didn't give it a go, like didn't put him out on the football field before they decided to say, all right, now we're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but again, I think he was being stubborn about being out there. But yeah, he just wanted out. But he says, SWB Pro says, by next Phillip Rivers, I mean a great quarterback who never even had a chance to win the Super Bowl because of dumb losses. And I think some of that, and I bring up the Phillip Rivers thing a lot. We've talked about it a bunch, just because I think he was, again, a victim to the fact that they were Tom Brady's and Peyton Manning's in that same AFC. So you saw, and he just wasn't at that echelon. That team was good. I mean, you got to talk about LaDainian Tomlinson, Sean Merriman and all these other guys out there. Junior Seau was even on the team too for them. So there's some bigger names, and these weapons. Vincent Jackson, he was there too. And he just wasn't able to get to that echelon because you had Tom Brady there in the playoffs every single year. If it wasn't him, he had to face off against Peyton Manning and the Colts, and Marvin Harrison and all those guys. So to try and beat those guys every single year, I mean, it had to be tough for Phillip Rivers.
All right. I think we'll conclude on that one and move on to our 7th pick in the draft. We had Derek Brown going to the Panthers. And I think this is another one of those just kind of slam dunk picks. This guy has started every game he's been healthy for. He's barely missed any time. And when he's on the field, he's there. He's making a difference just about every play. And while, defensive tackles don't have to be pass rushing specialists, he at least helps in that department. I know run stoppers is big thing, the reason he's there, but this guy just all around great player, excellent pick.
Yeah, Derek Brown was one of the studs coming out, and if you needed a D tackle, this was the guy to get. Coming from Auburn, he ended up having 6 sacks in his rookie year. It was insane. Not to mention, definitely a big-time disruptor into the backfield, a guy that can play both. He could pass rush, and he could also stop the run. I mean, you got the best of both worlds with him. So for Derek Brown coming out, like Carolina, like, oh, this is a need, and this is where we were hoping we would get him, So Derek Brown goes right down to 7, easy pick. That's definitely a hit all the way.
Yeah, not much to say about this one either. He's the good Derek Brown that played for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, I mean, again, hit absolutely what they needed, and it epitomizes what that Jacksonville Jaguar team does. Is really, their defense has been pretty good for the last couple of seasons too, and what they do, and they sneakily get these guys here in the draft and really build it up.
He meant to say Panthers.
Yes.
Panthers.
You meant Panthers.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
It's all good. All right, on to our next pick. We had Isaiah Simmons getting drafted to the Cardinals. This guy we all knew coming out. This was a very different player. This was a linebacker who was very fast, who could do it all. He could stop the run, he could stop the pass, and he's done just that since he went to the Cardinals. He's very quickly turned into a leader on that team, and every year it seems like you're seeing him just get better and better. I mean, the ceiling for this guy is just insane. I can't wait to see what he does going forward. I just hope that team as a whole can continue to get better and not just plateau at this mediocre team.
Hopefully he's not stuck with the franchise and they just don't end up going anywhere.
That's true.
For Isaiah Simmons, he was one of those guys. He was almost like a hybrid in a sense. He played safety. He also played linebacker for Clemson, and was just a sideline-to-sideline type of player. Was all over the football field, breaking up passes, making great tackles, and at times picking the ball off. So for Isaiah Simmons to go to Arizona, it was kind of like the perfect place to go for him. When they had the defense that they had then, he really kind of fit into it. But there was a lot of question marks coming out of the draft, how ready is he? Is he like a plug-and-play player, or is he like a guy that we need to further develop? And that's kind of the thing about Isaiah Simmons is coming out of the draft, teams were kind of they weren't all in on him, some of them. So I feel like that's why he went to 8. Otherwise, I really believe that he could have been picked earlier. Yep. So for Simmons, he needed a little bit of development, and he needed to pick a position. That was the other thing. Because him playing in safety and linebacker, you had to pick something, and he ends up getting into that linebacking role, and you can see from his rookie year, which he hardly played actually, and then his second year got on the football field a bit more, started to gain ground, and then now you're starting to see the player that he can become, and a big time disruptor. It's a hit from me.
Who are we talking about?
Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I thought he'd have a bigger impact, I think, with this team, but I don't think he really has. So I'm going to say the jury's still out on this one.
Ooh. All right. Going
Interesting.
against the curve a bit. All right. With our 9th pick in the draft, we had the Jaguars taking C.J. Henderson. While, last season was where we finally got to kind of see the ceiling for C.J. Henderson, but it wasn't in a Jaguars jersey. We're finally getting to see this guy who could be maybe not a number 1, but a very good number 2 corner that we've been kind of waiting on. So I'm going to say purely because he's not on the Jaguars anymore. But I'll say this is a missed pick for them.
Yeah.
But I do like C.J. Henderson going forward as a player.
Yeah, I like CJ coming out. I definitely didn't think he was ready just yet. As a lot of people wanted to push him as that shutdown type of corner. Yeah. Definitely has the attributes to become one. And 3 years later, you're not on the team that drafted you in the top 10. That's a concern. So that alone right there is where a franchise gave up on a top 10 pick. Doesn't bode very well. So it's an easy miss for me. Hasn't shown enough going forward, and I who knows. Still, there are late bloomers in drafts sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple years later, he's going to be an all-pro corner. We don't know, but it has happened before. So for me, it's easy a miss.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Same thing. Yeah, not a lot of stuff on paper. Doesn't really add up to what it should be.
Yeah.
Same thing. And like Joe said, once you're on a different team already after that first contract and you're just looking somewhere else, time to move on.
Makes sense. All right, with our next one, our last pick of the top 10, we had Jedrick Wills going to the Browns, a guy who I kind of hoped was who the Giants were going to get. I thought that was going to be, slant dunk, Jedrick Wills. Oh, yeah, let's go. And then, Andrew Thomas, like, all right, a couple years from now, I'm going to be pretty happy.
Maybe.
And since day one, Jedrick Wills has been who we all thought he would be. He's been a great tackle. He's been on the field. Dude, another one of those guys that just hasn't missed many games. I think he's missed like 3 career games or something. He's there, availability's huge, and he's been like a step below all-pro level. He's a great player. All-pro's different, but this is a big hit for me.
Yeah, he's definitely on the cusp of that all-pro level.
Yeah.
And where they ended up drafting him, this is the kind of tackle that became a plug-and-play player. Like, that's simple. Like, this was the one guy that was crazy that he got to 10. And when he did, Browns fans were ecstatic. Like, this is a guy that ended up not only panning out, but also a guy that you can see now, 3 years later, like, wow, not only is this guy our tackle, but he's like the franchise tackle. Like, he's not going anywhere for the next 10 years. So feel comfortable that he's on your team. He's going to help protect that quarterback, create rushing lanes and what have you. But he's definitely panned out. Definitely a huge hit.
Yeah, probably Mrs. Baker's book club.
That's probably the biggest part, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to agree with you guys, too. Same thing. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, makes sense.
You guys get to all the points by the time it gets to me, so it's all
I know.
good.
It's happened on the last couple.
I just agree, whatever. Sounds good.
Here, actually, you can kick us off with the next one then. We have Mekhi Becton was drafted at the 11th spot to the Jets.
I don't know. I'm not a big Jets fan altogether.
You
still.
wanted
Again,
this. You got it.
Mekhi Becton, I mean, he's been okay for them. I still don't think he's added up to what maybe they could be still. So I'm going to say, the way he's trending now, though, he could be a hit, but I think it's just taking him longer.
Right.
Next.
Mekhi Becton, I actually love the guy coming out of college. Like, I thought this guy was going to be not only just the mountain that he is, but he was just going to be an earth mover. Like, he was just going to move everybody around, kick him out of the club like a bouncer, and just wreaking havoc as an offensive lineman. Like, I thought that this guy was going to pan out. Now, what has he been able to do? Not much. Due to injury, he's missed pretty much every single year he's been in the league. Like, he's only had a very minimal amount of being on the football field. And when he was on the football field, he did have a big playmaking ability for the offensive line. Was definitely doing his job for the Jets. But you would like to see this guy play a full season for once. So, talent-wise, yeah, he's worth the pick. But because he just isn't available thus far for the team that drafted him, it's a miss.
Yeah, I'm basically gonna end up agreeing with you guys. Mekhi Becton, you gotta play. All the talent.
Tell him,
cool.
Cody. Tell him.
All the talent is cool, but if you play in maybe he didn't play at all last year. 3 games the year prior. I think his rookie year is the only time he's gotten above 10 so far. When you're there, great. But if you're only there for a couple games a year,
Yeah, right.
big miss. Thumbs down for me.
The one thing about Becton, too, that's interesting is, like, this year is critical for him. Because if he doesn't stay healthy, the team just simply won't exercise the 5th-year option.
Yep.
Since he's drafted in the first round, you got that 5th-year option. They might say, hey, nope, we're not going to give you the 5th-year option. We may still try to re-sign you, but on a way cheaper contract. Or, sorry, you haven't proved to us anything, so hit the bricks.
Kick rocks. I like it.
All right, with our
Lose some weight, too, man. Didn't he gain some more weight this?
No, he's just a big man.
He's just a big dude.
He's just a big
He's like
dude.
6'7". He just is
Dude,
a
he's huge.
very big guy.
He's huge.
All right, with our 12th pick in the draft, we had Henry Ruggs
This is the one.
getting drafted. In the limited
It's a
sample we got from
And run. Is that a bad? That was a bad.
that was pretty rough, man. And early on, we got to see the speedster for a brief amount of time. We made some plays here and there. It wasn't looking elite, but he was showing signs of maybe in the future he could break out. And then that's when the legal incident happened, and it's all history from that point.
Yeah,
There's no way this could ever be called a hit other than by legal standards.
This pick right here is the one I was alluding to before we started the show. This
Yeah.
one is how you view it, because the way he was tracking was stardom.
Yep.
Like he had 921 yards
That's what I'm
on
saying.
50.
We saw
Get
the
this,
flashes.
on 50 receptions. That's
Yeah.
it. He almost got the 1,000-yard mark in just 50 catches, which is insane. So talent-wise, absolutely was hitting it out of the park. Was going to be amazing, but due to unfortunate events and being dumb as a box of rocks, you ended up becoming a miss. Not talent-wise, though. Not
yeah, I mean,
talent-wise.
I think it was a hit for the
Definitely was
Raiders
a hit.
when they got it again. But again,
Jesus.
sometimes people when they go to
These
Vegas
damn
and
kids.
stuff, yeah, it's been even other players that don't even play for the team. They end up in trouble in Vegas and things and do stupid things. And players just mess up their careers absolutely altogether. So that's unforeseen by the team. But overall, I think what the team had decided to do and grabbed, it ended up working out nicely for them, or it was
Yeah.
fitting the plan that they had. It's just when things happen and the people do stupid things just like that, and what
Right.
they did, that will mess up the whole plan for them, and it just screwed up his whole young career, what it could have been.
His life. He ruined his life.
And someone else's, and
Absolutely,
destroyed a life and other people's lives.
Got
He's
a
like,
couple
oh, yeah,
more comments. in there.
SWB's back. You took off for a little bit, but we are on Henry Ruggs, actually. We just talked about Henry Ruggs. Anybody, if you follow along, grab the
What's going on,
draft
Pro?
order of 2020. Follow along with it. We are now at Henry Ruggs, but if anybody else, we just got done talking about Mekhi Becton too as well. Jury, I thought was still out on him. Joe had said miss, and Cody had said miss because of the injuries. And again, that's why
Not
I
available.
thought too,
Yeah.
same thing. It's just lack of production. And when he's out there, he could be, but I think you just don't know still. So
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
next,
I guess we're good for the next one.
my hair's
Jimmy?
starting to come out.
I hope so.
Joe's been praying for that day for a long time that my hair decides to come out.
Gosh.
It's just falling out of my little tiny ponytail.
Quit bragging.
All right.
Anyways,
Why is the camera on me, Cody? You just want to see it. You want to
boy.
witness it fall out.
Shows
right now,
off the
don't you?
rails
All
now.
right. We'll swap.
There you go. Now it's on you. Nobody wants to look at you now either, too.
Oh boy.
All right,
Anyways,
go ahead.
with pick
Next.
13, we had Tristan Wirfs going to the Buccaneers. And while coming out, people were like, oh, this guy might be a little bit of a project, might take some time, but he has really high potential. He didn't take any time at all.
No.
He's arguably the best tackle from that draft. From day one, he's been hitting like all pro levels immediately. This guy's just a freak. Like he's fast for a lineman. He's strong. He just bullies. Pass, run, doesn't matter. This guy's just a bully on the field.
Yeah, Tristan Wirfs
down on your knees
ended up
and tell me you
becoming,
love me.
like Cody said, like the best tackle coming out. And between Jedrick Wills and Tristan Wirfs, I feel like those were the two like kind of favorite tackles coming out that you didn't have to worry about developing at all. You didn't have to worry about, will they pan out, will they not? They seem to just gel. So Tristan Wirfs definitely has nailed down not only the tackle spot, but also he's number one in the hearts of fans of Tampa Bay everywhere. Definitely a hit for me. Super solid. Guy can do everything at that position. So hands down a hit.
All right. I think it's a hit for me, too, as well. We talked about it earlier when we talked about the whole Andrew Thomas thing situation. Again, we looked at it. Tristan Wirfs was there, a few others, and you're just kind of like, yeah, and they're like, oh. But overall, for the Giants, it worked out for them. But Tristan Wirfs there, it was. And that was big, I think, for the whole Tom Brady saga, too, as well. Because one thing that Tom Brady definitely needed was support and help to stay upright there. Because you saw in the last season, especially when he decided to come back, that wasn't so good, getting hit all the time like that and not being able to have that stability because their offensive line was battered.
They had
this
no
season.
interior offensive line.
So
no center, no nothing.
it was a hit for them, absolutely. But who knows for the Bucs where they go now? Now they have Baker Mayfield now over there. So interesting.
Don't forget Kyle Trask.
That
The-
could
the,
be.
The organization
that's right.
is
Yeah,
very
true.
high
Kyle
on him.
Trask too as well. So who knows what can happen?
I just can't wait to see
All right.
Baker headbutt people.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
He's gonna headbutt Kyle Trask and then Trask
Knock
is
him out.
I'm
the
in
way to
now,
do it.
bitch. Take that.
There we go. We got a couple more comments. SWB just said, oh, Ruggs. when
Yeah,
we were-
I don't
when
know
we were
exactly.
talking
about
about-
this
Oh,
guy.
Ruggs.
Hey, that's good.
And then he
Not much to be
doesn't,
told.
didn't know a lot about Tristan Wirfs. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Next.
Yeah. On to our next one. We had one Javon Kinlaw getting drafted to the Niners. It's tough to even judge him. He's only played in 10 games now over the last 2 seasons. Like the talent's there, but I have no idea if this guy can be successful. He hasn't played long enough. You got to be on the field. He's played about as much as Becton has.
Yeah, he's missed a whole season and then missed some other games the previous year. So I actually liked this pick at the time. I liked Javon Kinlaw. I thought, coming from South Carolina, that he was going to be another one of those disruptors, a guy that can penetrate in the middle of the offensive line, get to the quarterback quickly. I still thought that coming into this draft that he would have to develop, better run defense and not just pass rush to keep him more balanced. But in the short amount of time that he's been on the football field, he's only had 1.5 sacks on a Niners defensive line that is stout. Like, it's stacked everywhere. There's no weakness. So for him to not have more production in that area, I expected it to happen. So I think going forward, obviously he's got to stay healthy, got to stay on the football field, and maybe he still, he has some time to develop his skills a little bit better to make more of an impact. So for this pick, I mean, even though I like the pick at 14, I'm going to say at this point in time he's a miss. Even though, yes, he's missed some time and everything, but I just haven't seen an impact like I would have liked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the same thing. That's what I mean when you're drafted in the first round too. Here and on defense, that's great like that. That actually opens up opportunities for everybody to get some. It's not just one special weapon here, because when they have to guard another guy too, a guy like Nick Bosa here, that opens it up for other guys, and he's not able to do that. And like you said, the biggest ability is your availability. First season started to kick something off, but still not even great. He did have the INT for a touchdown, but again, 1.5 sacks, like you said too, not really spectacular. And since then, hasn't been on the field. So I'm gonna have to say at this point, it's got to be a miss.
All right. On to our next point. We're getting near that halfway point of the draft.
I can take a break then?
Yes.
No breaks.
Can we get
It's
coffee?
got a while. So at pick 15, we had Jerry Jeudy going to the Broncos. And while he is a very good player, you also, look at the guys drafted after him at wide receiver. For the most part, there are multiple superstars that got drafted after this guy. Jeudy has just been solid. He has yet to break the 1,000-yard mark, which isn't completely his fault. He's never had great quarterback play, even with superstar Russell Wilson last season. It's, at the moment, just because he was one of those top wide receivers taken, I'm going to say miss until he can break 1,000 yards. I think he's a good player,
Yeah.
but to be that top wide receiver, that's a miss currently.
Yeah, I agree. Jerry Jeudy if you ask anybody before that draft who you had at number 1 overall as a wide receiver, a lot of people had the debate of Jerry Jeudy being number 1 or CeeDee Lamb. Like, that was like the big debate. For Denver, they fell in love with the player. Like, listen, guy runs really good routes, had the speed and everything. So they thought by bringing in Jerry Jeudy that, he's going to be our answer. He's going to be the one that kind of catapults this offense with Courtland Sutton. And we haven't seen that up to this point. And it's because the Denver Broncos have been looking for the last 10 years for a quarterback. Still haven't found one. They thought they got one in Russell Wilson, was going to be the savior in Denver, but we still didn't see anything as of last year. Hopefully with now, Sean Payton coming into the head coaching role, we all know how creative he is with his offense. Yep. I think if anybody was to revitalize Russell Wilson's career, it's going to be him. And in doing so is going to revitalize Jerry Jeudy's, perspective path going forward in his career. So at the time right now, because we don't know the future, I will say
I can't predict the future.
I will say that Jerry Jeudy has to be a miss at this point because he hasn't been being that high of a pick at wide receiver, you're expected to come in and regardless of who's there at quarterback, you're expected to be a dominant player.
Yep.
And just hasn't met that yet. Maybe he'll do it this year, but as of right now, a miss.
I don't know. I think you guys are a bunch of haters. So I think
No, I
it's
go
just-
off production.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. All right. But his first season, he ended up having 800 something yards, but then injured. That put a big damper on things. But this year he bounced back with 972 yards, and it was only in 14 games that he started. So he would have been your 1,000-yard receiver, and he had 6 touchdowns too for a team that was horrible. They had no identity. So they were trying to go to somebody here, and he was a good, productive player. I mean, if you look at 900-something yards on a Dallas Cowboy team, I mean, that's amazing for them. That was their starters. That was their, Dez Bryant at one point. It was, when he was their number one. So, I mean, for you guys to say that, he's just a bust or whatever, if that's what you're saying.
He's a miss right now.
Yeah, I think it's just. I just think
the guys that
he
were
could do. I think
behind
you
him.
just haven't seen the best yet, and and
Well,
I don't
no,
like to
we
defend
haven't.
a Broncos player, but I think even to where he is, and the fact that he was only injured 1 year, but even both seasons with not even a full season to play. On the cusp of 1,000 yards, I think is fine. I think he's trending upwards, and I think now with this offense, I think he's only going to get better. So I don't think exactly that it's a miss. The fact that 1 year he got injured didn't kill him, because I think the other seasons that he played still showed potential. So I'm going to say it's a hit at this point.
Yeah, he's been banged up too often, though. Like, he might not.
It's
He
like
might,
some of these other guys you've talked about, though. Where you say,
Who?
I'm not sure about like Mekhi Becton and things like that, or even like you just talked, Kinlaw. I mean, so.
Yeah, no, that's right. But he's been banged up in games to the point where like he can't be as productive as you would like. So for Judy, as of right now, where he's at, like when you get picked top 15 as a wide receiver, you're expected to be
So 900 yards is
the
good
most-
enough in 14 games?
in 14 games. That's really good. One season though. Like my thing is like you need consistency at that position. Not to
2
mention,
seasons.
not to mention Judy himself
Out of 3.
has to, when you're picked that high, you got to be super good.
Oh, 1,500 yards. I get it.
So like no, not 1,500 yards,
So what's super good?
but like basically when you get picked that high as a wide receiver, I know your rookie year is not as like. For a lot of teams, you're expecting him to come in and be like this amazing player, but there is some development. But for Jerry Jeudy, he hasn't reached that pinnacle of being considered like one of these top flight elite receivers.
No.
When you get picked that high, you're expected to eventually become that type of receiver. And as of right now, for where you got picked and where we're tracking, yes, that can still happen because you're still young. But as of right now, after 3 years, to me, it's still a miss for being that pick
What
that
does
high.
SWB say?
No, he said Judy is interesting, not bad, but not great. Also,
So there you go. And then he's laughing out loud at something out there before that. I'm not
I
sure
think
what
it was
that
his comment before. I think he said Joey Bosa is mid or something like that. Let me see. I can go back a little bit. Not gonna lie, Nick Bosa kind of mid.
Oh, burn, man. He's got to throw it out there. He said, what did he say? Also, he's much more into the AFC since that's where my
his team's
teams
at.
are at. There you go. All right.
All right, guess we'll move.
What else? Where are we? We're at 17 now?
Yeah, I think that's where
16.
we're at right now.
Are we?
16.
16. That's
All right.
Mr. AJ Terrell going to the Falcons, where he got a little, overlooked initially because everyone was kind of salivating over Okuda at the top. They're like, oh, this guy's so good. Terrell, he's okay. He's no Okuda though. But since coming out, Terrell, he hasn't skipped a beat. Day one, you saw him competing with elite receivers out on the field, and you're like, wow, this guy's looking pretty good, but it's just practice. And then immediately, day one, he has been great. He's very healthy. He's very impactful. I could care less if he has a ton of interceptions because teams just won't throw near this guy because he isn't giving any space. This was an excellent pick. Great value, great player. Big hit.
Yeah, we always have that discussion, who's the number one corner coming out? Who's the next guy that's going to be just as good or maybe better? AJ Terrell fit the bill. Like, when he was coming out, I felt that, just like you said, Cody, like he just kind of slid down the draft board. And I was kind of wondering, after 14, with San Francisco 49ers because I kind of thought that maybe that would be his floor, where the Niners would scoop him up because they've done such a good job obtaining defense. But then I'm like, where is Terrell going? Like, why is everybody passing him over? Is there like an injury report that I don't know about? Is there, something he did off the field that I don't know about? Like, I'm like, what's going on? And then sure enough, Atlanta's like, oh no, we'll take him. That's fine. And he's been a very solid player for them, a very good corner that's kind of, that, like you said, was overlooked and has made an impact for that team. Now, if they can just find another corner this year, that'd be nice. So to even that defense out. But yeah, Terrell, to me, is easily, it's a hit all the way.
Yeah, we agree too at where they've been picked here at the 16th pick for the Atlanta Falcons. Looks good. He has been having a pretty good career. Also, his second season in the NFL, voted to the All-Pro second team. So that looks good for the Falcons and looks good for him. And let's move on.
All right. Before we get on to our next one, we got one more comment from SWB. Said, I'm just kidding about Bosa. He deserves the defensive player of the year. It's like he knows that Bosa could, tune in at any moment.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's gonna
Nice.
it's ground shaking.
Nice.
There we go. On to our next one. We had at 17.
Does he look like a bitch?
At 17, we had CeeDee Lamb going to the Cowboys. And this is a guy he's trended up each season. First season,
Yeah.
we're like, this guy he drops a lot of passes. Second season, he started showing flashes of a number one. Then last season, he really came into his own. A lot of times he was really the only guy out there making plays for them. And he was great. I don't know what his touchdowns, yards ended up at, but I know it was definitely up there. I had him on my fantasy team, real good for me.
Just saying.
Even as a Giants fan, it was nice to see. But I think this is a big hit right here. There'd already been a receiver that had went, and they still got their number one guy who has arguably, so far lived up to the hype.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb. There was debate on him, right? Like coming out of the draft or coming out of college. There was some debate there, like who's number one, who's number two. A lot of people had CeeDee Lamb as being the number one overall receiver to take, and some people questioned not his catching ability, but they all kind of knew where his speed was at. But some people questioned, believe it or not, his route running. And I'm like, I took a look at him. I'm like, why are they questioning this guy's route running? He looked pretty good to me. And for the Dallas Cowboys, they needed a receiver. They needed a go-to guy. And they were able to obtain a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who not only has size, he has decent speed, and has a ton of playmaking ability that you see now and today. So for CeeDee Lamb to do what he did, to fall as far as he did, end up with the Cowboys, as sick as it makes me feel, it's a hit all the way for me.
All right, CeeDee Lamb sucks.
That is
right?
one big pile of
I
shit.
I hate him. I hate the Cowboys. But yeah, I mean, Joe and I were watching this draft too, and we were just kind of seeing him fall down too. Slide down the draft board. We're trying to figure it out here too. And wouldn't it happen that it just happens to land right there with the Dallas Cowboys, who always go for that flashy pick anyways, and they wanted a wide receiver here too, and it ended up falling right in their hands at CeeDee Lamb, and he was going to be kind of that missing link for this team to get that extra wide receiver that they've been begging for the last 3 years. Haven't we heard this? Oh, we got this receiver, we're going to the Super Bowl. Oh, we got this receiver, we're going to the Super Bowl. And some of those other receivers have moved on, and now CeeDee Lamb has moved on and been that top guy now last year, and he's looked pretty good for them too as well. So I think overall, getting him where he was, he ended up. What's he saying down there? I'm gonna get to it in a second, but overall now sliding into that number one spot has now proved himself absolutely, because before he was like that second or third guy. Now he's moved into that number one, and he looks like a solid pick for them. All right, now what's he talking about here?
Okay, so I think he was
That's
talking about
WB Pro.
Terrell, but he thought it was someone else. Because he was like, as a Steelers fan, I think he is good. No A tier, but solid B or C. I am kind of curious what Terrell he was thinking of.
I thought he was getting back to Bosa still, and maybe he
That's what
wanted
I
to
thought,
prove
too.
about T.J. Watt, saying, well, T.J. Watt's
Yeah, and then he
tier
said
A.
CeeDee's
Nick
the
Bosa
top
sucks.
15 wide receiver right now, while we're on that one.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
All right, guess we could move on to our next pick in the draft. At the 18th spot was the Dolphins selecting, and they took Austin Jackson, offensive tackle who I believe has he been converted to guard now after last season?
After last season, I think so.
Yeah.
I think he ended up getting moved to guard.
Yeah, because I know last season, he had his injury. But before that, he had started just about every career game. When I look at drafting a lineman in the first rounds after a couple years, I'm like, how consistently has this guy been there? How many times has he started for them? Whether it's at tackle or guard. But this guy's been there for most of the games. I think he had some struggles early on.
Right.
But moving to the guard spot for someone of his size is going to be great. It's going to be great for him going forward. His career's going to just, hopefully, if he can stay on the field, keep going up. So I'm going to say right now, I'm going to say hit because he's been there more than he's missed. Missing one season doesn't quite put him at a miss for me.
Yeah, for Austin Jackson, the interesting thing was everybody was talking, where could he go? Could he end up in the first round at all? Because some people viewed him as a tackle. Some people said, oh, no, you got to kick him in at guard. And he had, I can't remember exactly what it was, but in college, I think he underwent a surgery of some sort or something. There was something involved to where it was going to knock his draft stock down. And many people weren't sure who was going to take him, where they were going to take him. And the Dolphins, hey, this is why teams do their due diligence. They did a lot of homework on Austin Jackson, said, well, if he falls to us with our second pick in the first round, since we have that luxury pick, let's take him. You know what I mean? We do believe in the player. We do believe that he can be a difference maker on our offensive line. Whether that be a tackle or guard, we still need it. So they were able to kind of just roll the dice, so to speak, and as up to this point, Jackson has he's panned out.
Yeah.
He still needed a lot of development coming out of USC, but the potential was there. And with a lineman, I feel like it's easier if he has potential. You can develop that with good coaching. So I think the Dolphins have done a really good job in his development, and you're seeing the results on the football field. So pick 18, their second pick in the first round, it's a hit all the way.
Oh, I did, before we get to if Jimmy says a hit or miss, I did find his college surgery. It actually wasn't for an injury. He gave a bone marrow transplant to his sister and had to miss time due to that.
That's right. Thanks, Cody.
Yep.
Boom. Cody right there with the knowledge.
That's what's up.
What's SWB's got to say down there in the comments?
He
Terrell
thought we were
Edmunds.
talking about Terrell Edmunds.
Oh, there we go.
That's why he said different Terrell.
Okay, but we got to find out which AFC team he supports, and
That's right, he's a
Steelers
Steelers
had that
fan.
whole thing now. So
Steelers fan.
there we go. But yeah, same thing. Austin Jackson again, the first two seasons really good, but again injury, end up happening with that. So, yeah, I think it's a good hit for them too. And that was the beginning of the Miami Dolphins getting things together because again they had stacked up on all those picks, and now you're seeing what has happened now from that, and that was the Brian Flores era. So it's still leaving his mark there. Even though now he's gone with this team, and the sky's the limit for that team now moving forward.
Right. Real quick, Pro, if you're still out there, if you could do us a huge favor, I don't know if you've already done so, but if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, it'd be much appreciated, bro.
All right.
All right, next, Cody, what do we got here?
On to our next one. A pick Joe was probably very angry about draft night.
You're absolutely
Pick
right.
19
You're right.
was Damon Arnett, or Damon Arnett. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
Damon.
which. Damon.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah.
Because even when he got drafted there, we're like, this guy's going in the first round? Like, what are they doing? And even when he was on the field for a bit, he looked like a second or third round corner. He didn't look great.
You give him that much credit?
He didn't look great. And then obviously we had, as similar with Ruggs, we had legal issues, and he's no longer on the team. This isn't even worth debating, hit or miss.
No.
This was miss on draft nights.
Yes.
This is a miss now.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is, I was watching this draft, and I could not believe that they took this guy at 19. I thought for sure there's plenty of other value there. There's plenty of other value that all guys that were going to pan out better. And they took the Ohio State product that couldn't stay with anybody in college. This guy, I watched this guy's tape. It was horrible. Wow, I can't even go on. Like, this is just ridiculous. So, total miss. Absolutely a horrible pick. maybe the worst pick ever.
Oh,
I think you wanted Kenneth Murray that year, didn't you?
I did.
I'm pretty sure that was the prospect you were kind of like, please,
I did.
this
Yeah.
is our spot.
Oh, you know what? That might be, you might be right about that. Yep. Hey, at the very least, look at all the names after that.
Yep.
Like I would have took anybody, and they still would have been in the NFL.
They still would have been in the NFL athletes.
gonna go against
SWB's
us
out
on this
there.
one,
No, I'm not going to get into this whole thing. I agree with you guys.
Yeah.
He says he's already subbed. I know he was on the stream a few months ago because I did see
nice.
his name on there,
Oh,
so I
okay,
recognized
okay.
him.
Thank you
And
so
I
much,
think
man.
He thinks we might be Dolphins fans, or at least you are, or somebody around here. Because again, maybe the helmets that we have that we've been
that's
decorating.
true.
It's
Slowly, again,
memorabilia.
a few months ago, he probably didn't know. I ended
Yeah.
up moving, and now we have a new studio. We're starting to work on bits and pieces here and there. So now we do have just autographed helmets around, just to have them as memorabilia around. So we're not exactly fans of these teams, but
Liven up
fans
the
of
show a little
football
bit.
together. So yeah, absolutely. So just showing our spadaz out there.
That's right.
All right, next, Cody, what do we got? We're at 18?
We are at 20 right now.
20
actually.
already. Holy moly. Time
Yep.
flies.
This was when the Jaguars took K. Levon Chasson, however you say it. I'm gonna say it
Clavon.
real fancy like that. I'm gonna say
Clavon.
I like K.
Clavon.
Levon Chasson. That
Clavon
sounds a little
Chasson.
better.
Come on, say it with me. Clavon.
Yeah, it's gonna be more like a
Clavon.
Deborah kind of situation
Oh
here.
boy.
So
Bonjour,
this
c'est
guy, I wasn't really sold on him draft night as
Bonjour.
being an elite pass rusher. I'm like, maybe he can develop,
Right.
but he's a career backup. That's like the nicest thing I can say about him. He shouldn't have been taken in the first round. Skill-wise, maybe not even the second round. He's a backup. He's probably always going to be a backup. This guy's kind of plateaued early for me. That's a big miss. This shouldn't have even been a first round pick.
I
Whoa,
see.
wow,
I
man,
do.
so that-
I see what you're saying, but you gotta understand this. In that draft with Clavon, he was seen as one of these developmental prospects, where like the ceiling was high. Like
Yeah.
he has to be developed right. He was seen more of this pass rushing LSU edge rusher who was just wreaking havoc all the time in the backfield. So the Jaguars kind of took him based on like what can he become for us. He can be an edge defender with this type of defense that we like to utilize. We like to send people off the edge. He kind of fits that. We think it's going to pan out pretty well. And when you're picking down at 20, a lot of teams are kind of already their rosters don't have as many holes. So they may take a little bit of a chance on a prospect more than others as they're picking higher up. So I think this was one of those type of picks for them where they were just like, well, we do like the potential. I think we should take him. Let's see if we can work with him and get him there. Cody, you're probably right. He shouldn't have been picked in the first round.
Yeah.
But the Jaguars probably didn't think he was going to be there for their pick in the second round, and that's kind of what pushes you up. If a team falls in love with you, you might get picked higher than normal. So I agree with you. I think that not only did they pick him too high, but I don't think he's become the player that they were hoping for. So definitely a miss for me. But who knows?
Correct.
Maybe a couple years down the road, maybe he can pan out a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, not much to say on this one. I think the same thing with you guys. I
All
agree
right.
with that one.
We'll go on to another one of those, big misses at 21 here.
Just announce it that way, like, oh my!
I mean,
What are
it's.
you waiting for?
You should have
this
done
is-
that with Arnett.
I should have.
I know, you could have.
This pick, almost angered me on draft night. So I'm just like, oh, Justin Jefferson's right there. And then they're just like, our number one wide receiver, Jalen Reagor. It's like, this was just bad. He was undersized. He doesn't have good hands.
Yeah.
He doesn't run good routes. It's like, oh, but he's fast. Like, you have to catch the ball for that to matter.
Right.
And it was like almost karmatic justice later on that now he went on to the Vikings as like the returner. It's like I really hope you had a conversation with Jefferson like, hey, I was drafted before you. That means I'm better than you, right? Like there had to be something, but this is just a very straightforward miss. This guy was pretty bad from day one. Never developed to anything other than a backup. He's a decent returner. That's about it.
Jalen Reagor, man.
Stinks!
Here's the crazy part. His rookie year, right? Or I should say, this is what has happened the last 3 years, right? In 3 years' time, he hasn't hit 1,000 yards. Like, that should say it enough right there. Hasn't hit 1,000 yards in 3 years. You were seen as a guy that, at best, could be a number 2, maybe slot. You know, so for Reagor to come in and to just not develop at all, not become the player the Eagles were hoping for, and you saw that, you know, in recent drafts that, you know, they made the decision quickly and they said Reagor's never going to be the guy we want, so let's go draft another one. So that alone it's a miss, easy.
SWB, see you later. SWB's got to go, but he said he'll be on,
We'll try to be on more streams.
yeah, he said he'd be on more streams, so we want to say
Thanks for tuning in, man. Appreciate
absolutely.
it.
It's always a good time. Jalen Reagor, yeah, that's what I mean. They kind of, everybody was surprised and shocked, like, again, when he ended up getting picked, I think, at this part.
And ahead
too,
of the
you
guy
know.
that got picked later.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's the thing. And now
Stupid
everybody's
Eagles.
not shocked that it didn't really pan out for him. So now this is one of those things where all the experts were right on this one. And they're like, yeah, like, what the hell are you doing here? And it happened to, you know, the Eagles, which I despise and I hate. So it ended up working nicely for them, you know, and I loved it, you know. But again, you know, they brought him in there. They're like, hey, we're going to go out. This is just the guy we like. And it didn't pan out, didn't be that number 1 for him. And this guy is that miss you're talking about. Again, not getting the yardage, not becoming that guy, which a lot of people never saw him as being in anyways in the first place. So
Yeah.
there you go. I
And
agree with
that's-
you guys absolutely.
that's like the-
not much to talk about, you know, 'cause
Right.
the Eagles suck.
That's like the one thing in the first round is team picking in the first round, you can't miss. Like, your first round pick is one of those type of picks where, like, there's so much talent up and down the draft board. You just can't afford to miss as an organization in the first round, especially. Like, if you miss in the first round, it kind of transcends into the rest of the rounds and ends up being a disaster of a draft. So this is kind of where it began for the Eagles, and it didn't get much better after that. And they're really, really kicking themselves as Cody's going to unveil the next pick.
Yep, with the 22nd pick, we had Justin Jefferson
Good God.
going to the Vikings. And he like a top 3 wide receiver now. He has been amazing since he entered.
At
and
22? At pick 22.
So I remember
Pick
when I was
22.
looking through my wide receivers that year, and I'm watching, and I'm like, this guy's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, why is he ranked below so many people? And like, don't get me wrong, you know, CD and some of those guys, like, they're good wide receivers. Justin Jefferson is different.
Right.
He is like a generational talent practically at wide receiver. He is incredible. So the fact that Jalen Reagor went
Yeah,
before
right.
him is infuriating. Like, I could have been an NFL scout that year, apparently. Like, I think anybody could have told you Justin Jefferson. I can't with the turtle thing, but this
Way
is
to
a
throw
big
that in
hit.
there, Jim.
I don't know why I even thought to just put it in. I just thought it'd be funny at that time, and it ended up working. So there you go.
All right. So Justin Jefferson gets picked at 22, and as frustrating and aggravating if you're an Eagles fan as that is.
I think that's what it is. I thought about the Eagles. And
but
like,
also,
Turtles. Jalen Reagor.
my thing is how did he slide to 22?
Yep.
And this does show you, right? This shows you how teams view certain players. Sometimes they value certain players very highly, where normally if you're a fan or if you're a person that follows the draft, you're like, I don't get it. I don't see why you're picking this guy. Or, okay, we got a stud. You know what I mean? Like, there's conviction. But this is why it's a crapshoot. This is why there's no such thing as, like, a safe pick. There's no such thing as this guy's definitely panning out no matter what. We've seen that time and time again every single year. So for a lot of these so-called misses, these teams that, you know, what they did their homework on them, they were convicted in their draft pick, and they thought that they were going to get the right guy.
Yep.
So unfortunately, good job, Eagles. But Minnesota, wow, what a steal and a half. This guy is absolutely killing it in the league, is easily seen as one of the best receivers in the entire league as well. Justin Jefferson, you can't stop him. You can only hope to slow him down every week. And even then, that's not good enough. But yeah, a hit all day long.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it throughout this season. I mean, you still couldn't stop the guy. He was going crazy, and again, it's debatable if he is the best receiver in the NFL right now, number one. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, Cody says top 3. It could be even number 1 at this point. And his rendition and his treating the gritty has taken over the whole NFL
patented
and
move.
everywhere. You know what I mean? I mean, you see this thing everywhere. So that's what kind of impact this player has had, not only on the field, but in children's minds and this around the
High
whole
school football,
everywhere.
like everywhere.
It has been everywhere. So I mean, iconic. And the fact that he is able to get him too, the Vikings were able to get him at this late.
Good
what
God.
a bargain steal here for the Vikings, and it really set them off to do that
Yes.
trade. You know, where they got where they
Stephon
could
Diggs.
move on with
Yep.
Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
You know, get rid of him and move on and
get a pick
go
for him.
fewer and actually
Yeah.
get value for that, because
Yep.
that set everything up for them and to have success. It's just they haven't because they have Kirk Cousins.
That's
Next.
true. That's a good way to conclude that topic. Next was pick 23, was the guy that Joe
Yes.
really wished was on his team at that
Instead
point.
of Damon Arnett.
Yep. We had Kenneth
What if you
Murray.
had David Arnett?
David
Would that be better?
Not good enough. Not good
What
enough.
about Will Arnett?
Let's start with football.
Yeah,
Not
that's
players.
true. All right, so yeah, Kenneth Murray went to the Chargers, and he's been a very good player. This isn't an amazing pick, but this is by far not a bad pick.
At
This
pick
guy
23,
is-
though,
Yeah, that's right. Well, pick 20. It's weird. Late in the draft, you're hoping you get starters by the end of the first round, and Kenneth Murray's he's been a starter for them. I think in every season he's been there.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not a superstar.
no. And that's the thing with him, right? Like when he was coming out of Oklahoma. He had a bad knee in college, and some people said, "Oh, I don't know, the knee issue. I don't know. He's got chronic problems there. Don't know if we should take him." Ends up sliding down the draft, and a lot of people loved this guy. A lot of people saw this guy as like that traditional middle linebacker that could go sideline to sideline with blazing speed and tackles really well, and even had decent coverage coming out of college. So, just a overall solid prospect. And when you're picking in the 20s now in the first round, and you get a guy like Kenneth Murray, yeah, he's not elite, he's not epic by any means, but he gets the job done. So they got themselves a starter, and a solid starter at that. At 23, it's a hit.
Yep, I'm going to say the same thing. You guys said it. Not much to really cover on Kenneth Murray on this one. So, I mean, especially
Nothing too
getting this
exciting.
further down here. I will say, I think what we're talking about is still more exciting than some of the stuff that NFL.com is talking about. They're actually picking the NFC Cinderella team of 2023 already, without even
Little
getting to the
early.
draft yet.
Yeah.
Wait,
there's a
what?
whole lot
Isn't
left.
that ridiculous?
Wow.
Whole
They
lot
need
to
to
do.
just hire our show.
Yeah, the Cinderella team they're picking right now without even drafting yet.
They should just hire our show.
that's way
We got
too
way
early.
better
What the hell?
topics.
Seriously, bro. Like,
Unbelievable.
what are you doing?
Yep. That's
Right,
all.
Also, if you're out there
Yes.
listening, any of the networks, we're for hire. So, just pointing that out there.
All right, what do we got, Cody?
All right,
What's
so next at pick 24, we
24,
had
we're getting there.
the number 1 center in the draft, Cesar Ruiz, going to the Saints. And if you look in his first season, there were some struggles. I think he even got benched at some points, but he's developed quite nicely. He's turned into a full-time starter for them over the last 2 seasons. And based on that knowledge alone, I'm going to say this is a hit. If you draft at 24 and you're able to lock yourself down a starter for years to come, that's a hit.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's the thing, too, is like his first year, his rookie year, it was almost like they sat him for most of the games. Needed to further develop. We knew that coming from Michigan, that he still needed to work on some things, and he did. And his second year just took over. And ever since then, they've never looked back. So got themselves a starting caliber player who's doing very well for them on the offensive line. Also, playing with one of the best offensive lines is the Saints. So Cesar Ruiz fell into a great role there for them. And yeah, at 24, man, you get a solid starter like that, like hands down, that's part of the greatest hits.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, playing both guard and center too in his second year, and mixing it up, and still not getting a lot of the penalties too that as you see from offensive linemen too as well. Really a good solid player here for the Saints, and like you said, a great offensive line too on top of it. So I like it too as well.
All right. On to our pick 25. We had Brandon Ayuk going to the 49ers. And while he hasn't been a bad player, he hasn't been, I think, other than one season, very impactful when he was on the field. And if you're looking at first-round picks, you want a guy that's going to be a difference maker. Even at this point, if you're hoping for a number 2, Brandon Ayuk, there's some games where it's like he just disappears or he's not even in the game plan. Say, just based on that and him being outside of Rieger, I don't really count him. One of the worst first-rounders wide receiver-wise. I'm going to say like a hesitant miss because I had Judy as a miss, and if he's a miss, then like Ayuk's a huge miss.
Well,
I don't
By
know,
those
Cody.
standards.
But here's
by
what I
those
was.
standards.
What are your standards?
Here's what
standards are all screwed up, bro. You're
But at
screwed.
pick
You have
20
weird standards.
You're at towards the end of the first round, and Brandon Ayuk, he might not have elite stats or anything, but he did miss a year due to injury, so that kind of cut back on him. But then, like the last couple of years, he's kind of come on stronger. You know, as the team started to grow and as he got more comfortable with the Niners after being with the Niners for a year, you saw in his second year there was a small, not a leap, but like a small jump in terms of being on the football field, being productive, helping out. Then last year is kind of his coming out party. Last year he was definitely more productive. You're seeing the track record going up. And Ayuk is not only becoming a bigger part of the offense, but also he's kind of this unsung hero for the Niners. Like everybody points the finger at Deebo Samuel, like we got to watch out for him. And then they do their best to stop him, and then they forget about Ayuk. And then Ayuk goes off on a game or two. So it's not consistent. You would like it to be more consistent, but he's a starter-worthy receiver. They got it with the 25th pick, and I think he's just going to get better as the season goes, or as this season goes, I should say. But at 25, it's part of the greatest hits, I gotta say.
Yeah, I don't know what your standards are again, Cody, too, because this guy, again, on the other side, if you look at it last year, season before, I mean, still on the other side of Deebo Samuel, still put up 800 and something yards, and then this season over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and a catching percentage of 68%. I mean, again, with those other, another big weapon on the other side, what else do you want from your second wide receiver? I mean, this is clearly a bust right here. I mean, I don't know.
I said hesitant miss.
Hesitant. You said if. Who was the
I said
other
if
wide
I
receiver
call,
you
I
talked
said
about?
because I called Judy a miss.
Jerry Judy missed it, then Brandon Ayuk's an absolute miss. That's what you were saying. I'm like, are you on crack?
I said, yeah.
Whoa,
Maybe I am.
Yeah,
that's not the
no
point.
name calling.
No, I'm
Jesus.
just saying.
This family-friendly
Jerry
show.
Judy doesn't even touch these stats. Now he's defending Jerry Judy. You
Family-friendly.
want to say that this guy isn't even nowhere near it?
Family friendly.
I would say it's a hit at this point. It's just, again, when you look at some of these wide receivers, I think that were in this draft, they had to be that number one guy and be that guy to put up the big numbers here and stuff. But this guy is produced even with the, with Deebo Samuels on the other side too, and being a lot of big of the offense, where he did a lot of even the running and trick plays with Deebo. He was putting up yardage here too on top of it. So I think he was just another cog in the wheel of what this offense was in the Kyle Shanahan offense.
All right.
Screw you, Cody.
Wow.
Oh, man.
I'm
so
taking
angry?
Joe's place tonight. You
Yeah, it's
usually talk
usually
like that.
Joe.
Why can't I talk
I don't know
to him
what
like
you're
that
talking
this time?
about.
I'm on
I'm
Jimmy.
always nice.
Why can't I rag on Cody today?
Anyways,
It's my turn.
so pick 26.
We're taking turns.
You guys are. I'm just going to keep getting bullied over here, but at pick 26, we have Jordan Love. Not really a prospect we can even judge yet.
Yes, we can.
He's been sitting behind Rodgers for a couple seasons.
Right.
With very limited allowed time on the field because Rodgers has been very healthy. I mean, I guess
Let's-
we'll
okay,
see this
Cody,
season if he has the
let's-
potential to be.
We
a
don't
hit.
we don't have a season to judge him on. Even
I know. It's a
3
miss
seasons.
if you're
But-
going off of him never playing before.
But how about what we've seen of him thus far in the few games that he's actually played, and with his rookie year, yeah, like nothing. There's nothing
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean? But like he got limited playing time, and people are like, well, he did some things well. He did some
very
things pretty
okay,
bad.
yeah.
And then recently, he played what was it 1 or 2 games for Packers
I
last
want to say
season?
2 games, but I could check.
Probably 2 games. And in those 2 games, we saw a different type of Jordan Love. Yes, he's coming into the middle of the game. Defenses are probably not prepared to play a completely different quarterback. You know what I mean? So they're kind of on their heels in that regard. And then he kind of lit it up. You know, in limited fashion, lit it up in those couple of games and said, hey, I can run this offense. Hey, I am an adequate starter. I can do these things. So, I mean, the projection for him at 26, this is kind of the same equation that Green Bay loves to do. They did it with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. They got Aaron Rodgers, I think, at pick 24 in the first round. And they said, oh, he's going to be waiting in the wings. Then it's time to move on from Favre. They trade him away. Here comes Rodgers. He becomes a Hall of Famer. You know, he replaces the Hall of Famer that once was there. Then Green Bay's like, oh, same scenario. Maybe we could get Jordan Love. We like him. And maybe we can keep this train going. Yeah. Maybe we can develop Love to not only replace Rodgers, but then maybe, if not a great starter, maybe he can just be, you know, a solid starter for us. But with limited fashion, I mean, 2 games, it is still hard to judge him.
Yeah.
And I will say this, he definitely has upside in the limited snaps that he's had. But pick in the first round at 26, and you still haven't broken the mold, so to speak, of getting into that starting lineup. And granted, I get it. Rodgers was there, so you're not going to.
Yeah.
But it's hard to judge him like now, because obviously, like you said, only a couple games we can really go off of.
Yeah.
But a first round pick, like maybe you could have got Love in the second round, maybe.
They moved up to get in to the
They
first
got right
round
back
to
in the
get-
first
that's
round,
thing.
yeah, to get him.
To grab him. That
So maybe
adds to it.
Maybe they could have got him in the second round, and they didn't want to take that chance. But picking in the first round, I feel like this is a miss for right now,
Yeah.
with the potential of being a hit down the road.
There we go. Love actually saw, I'd say, more than just limited time in 1 appearance last season against the Eagles. It's probably the one you're referring to when you lit it up. He was 6 for 9, 113 yards, and a touchdown.
And that was towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he just finished it.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what it kind of did spark people's interest. I would
Right.
say that thing.
Yeah.
I would say, because all we've known so far is he's just sitting back there. Aaron Rodgers is obviously the starter here, but they wanted to bring him in because Matt LaFleur, it's his second year with the team. So he kind of, I think, wanted to do what you guys said. Again, Aaron Rodgers, he looked well enough for them, but they're looking for the future and who's going to run my offense the way I want it to. Aaron Rodgers had been butting heads with Matt LaFleur since he started. He would try to take audibles away from Aaron Rodgers, try to do things, other things, and try to do it his way. And Aaron didn't really like that type of situation. And even since then, he's been really abrasive to him and the whole franchise altogether. We've been dealing with the whole. We see what we're seeing now with
It's mainly
with,
Gutekunst.
Well, I know, but we see what's going on with this whole situation.
Yeah, I
now.
get you.
And so because of all that situation here,
Yeah.
and him stomping his foot, and I don't want to leave, and blah, blah, and this and that, we had seen the fact that, you know, Love has been, his development has been stipend and things like that, hasn't been able to get on the field because you do have Aaron Rodgers, who says no to Aaron Rodgers out there. And even being out there, he isn't really taking a step down at what we've seen. Like last year, he still had the MVP situation. So you can't say or justify we got to put this younger guy in right now. So that's the reason why we haven't been able to see much from him. So it is a big question mark. It is a big who done it? What do we have here? But with what we did see this year, it did spark our interest and say, maybe they were onto something and we're just only unable to unlock it right now. So far, it's been a bust, but who knows? Maybe it's that secret hit there what we got. So I don't know what I just said. But I don't know if
But
it was actually a
we've
hit
come-
or a miss, but
we've
I
come full
left you
circle.
wanting
Secret hits.
and waiting to see what it might be. How about
Hey.
that?
I like secret hits. That should be a new one.
So at pick 27, we had linebacker Jordan Brooks going to the Seahawks, and it's very similar to how
Damn
we kind of
Seahawks.
talked about Kenneth Murray. It's one of those very consistent linebackers, not gonna jump off the paper with amazing productivity, but he's been a very consistent starter. Checks all the boxes you need him to. I'd say it's a hit. This is for a linebacker at this spot. It's a pretty good pick.
And a starter.
Yeah.
And a guy that is just blazing on the football field. He flies around. Great tackler. I was actually jealous of this pick as well, as you can tell from the Damon Arnett pick. This is another guy where I would have been happy with taking him at 19. Jordan Brooks. I saw him at Texas Tech. This guy was just an animal all over the football field. Super solid tackler. Blazing speed for a linebacker and size. He had 247 tackles total in 3 years. That is pretty good numbers.
Yeah.
So this guy in a transformation, right, with Seattle, where they were moving out with some of the veterans, they were kind of moving them out the door slowly, and then they're picking up. And this is one thing that Seattle's great at. I don't know what they do. I don't know what kind of ritual they do to figure out secret talent, but they just do. They find these guys low in the rounds. They find these guys after the draft is over, undrafted free agents and what have you. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, they're starters. So Jordan Brooks at pick 27, a guy that kind of went overlooked in this draft. Seattle nails down another solid starter. Hit.
Boom, boom. The hits keep coming, and it is from the Seattle Seahawks, who had the Legion of Boom. But yeah, absolutely. That's what they do, and they, especially even on the defensive side. That's what the Seattle Seahawks have been able to do for a while now.
Really good.
And just
Really
be able
well.
to find those guys that
Gems,
just hit,
man.
the gems that happen here, and keep relevant and keep getting it done. Because again, I think their defense has surprised us time and time again with some of the guys that they had, even moving on from some of those guys that they had with the Legion of Boom and spreading out and going to the opposite teams as free agents, still been able to keep relevant and find these key players like you have been talking about. And absolutely, I gotta agree with you guys on a hit on this one too as well.
All right, at
Number
our
28.
Yep, pick
28, we're almost there.
We had Patrick Queen, who was almost a little bit of I'd say, overthought prospect. People were like, "Oh, he's a little small for a linebacker." That's why you saw Kenneth
Right.
Murray going before him, Jordan Brooks going before him.
Right.
But Queen, he has developed into something special. This guy can cover at borderline a safety level. He comes up on the run. He's put on some extra muscle, so that size concern no longer there.
Withering away, huh?
Yeah, Patrick Queen, he's excellent. This is probably one of the biggest steals, if not the biggest steal of the draft.
Yeah.
Big hit.
Absolutely. Patrick Queen, I was really high on in this draft. I was hoping that he would, obviously we don't know how the draft was going to fall. I should have guessed because my Raiders just usually botch the first round anyway. But Patrick Queen, I actually wasn't sure he was going to fall this far, to be honest. There was so much hype about him, but you're right. There was concern with his weight, with how lanky he was, and they're like, well, he's still got to put on muscle. But it's like, okay, think about it. You're a college kid, right? You're a college kid, and you're sometimes some of these players, they don't hit the weight room as hard. They don't, and some of them don't even go. They're like, oh, I'm good enough to play. But when you get to the NFL, it's a job. It's seen as a job, even though you love playing the sport, but now you got to work at it every single day. All you're doing is dedicating yourself to working on your body, working on your mind, working on your skills. And Queen, that's what it took for him. Done with school, you transfer into the NFL, and the Baltimore Ravens have done a phenomenal job of developing him, getting him stronger, getting him, where he needs to be. So, 28? Are you kidding me? Queen ends up going at linebacker. I cannot believe he was this low in the draft order, honestly. And, what to say? Guy can cover, can tackle, he does everything. So easily part of the greatest hits.
Yep.
Easily part of the greatest hits. Yeah, absolutely. Amassing his best season so far with 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, and 5 sacks here, too. So only the sky the limit right here for these guys. And it's that Baltimore Ravens defense, linebackers. Right. That's what you know them as. And again, this is another great addition to the
team.
And
then they get the trade for Roquan Smith this past year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just
now you terrifying. Have Smith,
you talk
Patrick
about these teams that just keep things going. You know what I'm saying? It's just nuts.
Jeez.
All right, on to our next one. Another one of those guys that's in the category for one of the biggest misses of this entire draft, and that is Isaiah Wilson. Someone who dealt with adversity very early on in his career and handled it horribly. It went right to his head. He had to leave because he was dealing with, I think it was like depression issues and stuff. And instead of fighting through it, he basically left the NFL. I believe the Giants gave him a shot last season, but it didn't pan out. I think he was on the practice squad for a little bit.
I was going to say, was it on a practice squad?
Yeah, we ended up moving on shortly after that. This is a very easy miss.
This is a guy that some people, they had him rated, somewhat high. Some people weren't sure if he was going to make a first round. But Isaiah Wilson, I was kind of perplexed on. Coming out of Georgia, I'm like, I don't really know, one, if he's even ready to play in the NFL. Two, I don't see any, you start to see when you're evaluating these players, you start to see attributes that you like, or maybe he needs to work on this or that, and then he'll be a starter-worthy type of player. But in the first round, that's what you're hoping for as a starter. Isaiah Wilson, I didn't see that from him coming out of Georgia. I just didn't see it. And for him to go in the first round, even if it was a dead last pick in the first round, I don't think he was deserving of that. I think Tennessee, this is where when Tennessee made the pick, I'm like, that is a huge reach. I don't even know why he's in the realm of the conversation.
You're ugly. You're disgusting.
And this is the conversation they had.
Give me $200.
Exactly. So Tennessee whiffs big on this one. This is it's definitely made the list. He's made the list of the worst players ever.
The list for the miss.
Man, there you go. So I think you guys said it all on this one. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth, like every single word, right? It had to have been. So yeah, I'm gonna agree with you guys on this one. That's fine.
That's all. It's
Cody,
not. That's
apologize
good.
to the man.
It's barely
It's fine.
played.
Apologize to him.
No,
Cody,
that's okay.
We're gonna
I'm not
go on
yelling
to
at
the
Cody
next
right now.
pick
Yeah,
and move on from pick 29.
I know.
I know.
Why are you
away
getting me to
from
yell
all the
at Cody?
personalness? So
30.
with pick 30, we had. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this.
Go for it.
Noah Igbenogany. I think it's said like that. He's a cornerback for the Lions.
He has a first name.
And
Igbenogany?
This kind of falls into the realm of, do you call it, what's your definition of hit or a miss? He's still on the team.
Mm-hmm.
He's not not a bad player.
He's pretty good.
But he's kind of fallen into like a career backup kind of role.
He plays slot corner for them a lot.
Yeah, like
And-
it kind of falls into your definition of hit or miss.
Right.
I guess for a first rounder, I'd say a little more than
30.
just. I know. A little more than just an
30.
inconsistent slot corner. So
30.
with that being said, I'm gonna say miss. I wish people could have saw your face as you were looking at me, going like,
It's like, is Joe gonna rip my head off right now? Should I say this
like,
nice?
all right, I'll say hit. I'm sorry.
Right. So Noah, he was one of these corners that nobody had him pushed up high or anything. A lot of people had him right where he ended up getting picked in the lower first round pick, maybe high second. But a guy that was going to come in, was going to develop, and a lot of people saw him as an inside corner, slot corner, not so much outside. And in Miami, this is kind of one of the luxuries. Miami had several first-round picks, and this is one of those things. Like we talk about Austin Jackson, their last pick before this, and how it's a luxury pick. They can take some chances, and at pick 30 in the first round, they get themselves a slot corner. A guy that is never going to be an outside guy, is always going to contribute in the inside game, and he's a solid corner. Not great, but he's solid. So for me, at pick 30, he's a hit.
All right, yeah, Miami, again, like you just said, was stacking up on picks, had picks to pick. They needed to fill that spot, too, as well. So, I think, again, solid pick for the team overall, and I think they benefited the last couple seasons, again, that defense staying true, and now that offense is taking form, too, as well. So I like it, too, as well.
All right. On to pick
I'm
30.
not rude like Cody. He's like, this guy just sucks.
Unless it's an
pick
Eagles pick.
31.
It's
All
a
right.
slot corner in the first round. How dare you?
Man, it's just turning
31,
into a
31.
roast. With
Go for it.
31,
Go for it.
we had corner Jeff
want you
Gladney
to
coming
be
off the
nice.
board. And I believe Joe was fairly high on this guy coming out of college.
like
and
him.
in his first season, Joe looked like a genius. This guy was looking good. He looked like he was going to be a starter going forward. And
like
then he hasn't played
He
in
starts
2
to come and then he
years.
pulls out.
It's
Yeah.
been 2 years now. Like,
Injuries, man.
I can't
Injuries.
call him a hit. You have to play to be a hit.
Right.
If
Right.
you're not playing, it's an easy miss,
E-
regardless of what you did in your 1 season.
Right, even at 31. Like, this is super late in the first round, and he has the potential to become not only just a starter, but maybe one of like a top 15 starter. The guy had potential. And you started to see glimpses of it early on, but then injuries. Hey, you plan on playing. I'm just wondering, like, when is that going to happen? But that's kind of really what's holding him back. I really was curious to see when and if he could stay healthy, how much better he can progress to be. Because at pick 31, if they got themselves a number 1 corner, or even at the very least a number 2 corner that can lock down one side or the other, this was a huge hit. But so far, we haven't been able to see it. And just like some of the other players earlier in this draft, we've said it before. If you're not on the football field and producing and showing the team that you were worth that pick, we can't give you a hit on potential. So has to see the execution on the football field. And so far, Jeff, you have missed the cut. So you are a big miss.
Boom. Yeah, and I agree with you guys on that one too. Again, because when you saw the pick there, you're like, yeah, okay, maybe this is a nice
Steal.
right
I thought
here
it was
at
a
this point.
steal.
Yep.
And just we haven't been able to see anything about it to see what will happen with this whole situation. So again, what you said, your best availability is to be there, your best ability to be out there, and just hasn't. So we haven't got a chance to see what he could be. So at that point, it's just got to be a miss at this point here for them. So
All right.
where are we at? Number 32.
We're on to 32.
The last
Last
one.
one.
The
Unless we
Chiefs-
wanna
It's
go
been
in
a
the second
marathon,
round.
Cody.
Oh, gosh,
it's been
no.
a marathon.
Yeah,
Let's
all
want
right.
to talk about the Cinderella team of 2025.
I think I'm good. We'll move on to pick 32, which was Clyde Edwards-Helaire going to the Chiefs. And, they got what they wanted out of him. He's a very solid running back, runs hard, he can catch passes. They weren't swinging for the fences on this pick. This was very much, let's play it safe. We're going to get the prospect that we know can come in day one and will fit in our offense. And I guess on that aspect, I'm going to say that this is definitely a hit for them.
This is one of those. This is one of those confusing picks for me because
Hold on.
hold on.
Penalty.
What's up from Playland the Beach?
Oh,
Paul
Playland the
Matty
Beach.
is
There
in the
he is. He's in the
house.
house.
Just in time for pick 32.
Yeah,
Let's
just in time
go.
for the ending.
All right, late, but always on time.
That's right.
But this pick right here, this is kind of perplexing for me because Clyde Edwards-Helaire, first year, I'm like, these got another running back that's just going to pan out and he's just going to run all over the field. The guy was amazing. Let's just say what it is. Didn't time well at the combine. Like, we already knew that he was like a bowling ball type of player, a guy that just breaks tackles, makes people miss with his quickness, and he had great hand catching ability. So fits perfectly for Chiefs. Looks like he's going to have not only just a good career, but a very long career with the Chiefs. Now is not so much in good standing with the Chiefs, and they're moving on from him. And now they have Isaiah Pacheco as their guy. So this pick to me is like, all right, same thing like, CJ Henderson. You were on the team. Now you're not in favor of the team. You're not on the team anymore. You're going to be moving on. So for me, even though it's pick 32 at the end of the first round, it is still technically a first round pick.
Yeah.
You're not on the team. Goodbye. This is going to be a miss.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with Joe on this one. Cody, again, I don't know what the frig you're thinking. Again, what,
He had a lot of touchdowns this last season.
Oh my goodness!
And then lost his job.
And he doesn't. He's not even playing really. Where was he in the Super Bowl?
He was on the couch.
I'll wait.
Yeah.
On the couch.
Yep. That's right. Again, because he had Isaiah Pacheco in there and took over the whole thing and said, "Peace, bye." And we had a question about this guy. At least I did. I wasn't sure what kind of impact he was gonna have. A lot of people projected him to, he's gonna light it up for the team, and he started to, and it looked pretty good for them, But again, now you've seen him get injuries and then take a step back, and now look at him. He's fallen out of graces with the team. You got Isaiah Pacheco there, and it's time to move on. For me, it's a miss.
All right, well,
Yeah.
that will conclude.
That is the
our
end of the
draft
first round.
review.
Now the second
Here
round.
we go. Next one.
I'm going home.
Number
That's right.
33.
I've been bullied enough for one
T.
round. We don't
Higgins.
need 2 rounds.
Let's just name a few for second round,
Well,
right?
okay.
For
Second
fun.
ones, were some more? Yeah.
T. Higgins.
All right.
He's the 33rd pick. Bengals pick T. Higgins.
Again, that's a second rounder. That's okay.
That's the
The
top of
second
second
round.
round.
Yeah,
Second round pick.
Yeah.
That's pretty good for the
Yeah.
second round.
I think it's a
that's
hit.
really
Yeah,
good
yeah.
value.
Yeah.
The guy's he's had 3,000 receiving yards in 3 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty
Yep.
good.
Yeah.
19 touchdowns, by the way. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of skim through.
Yeah,
Xavier
just grab some
McKinney.
notable names. Yeah, I remember that pick. I was
yeah.
very excited.
Yeah, that was a good steal. And
Yep.
again, you weren't sure at first because of the major injury, but when he came back, he's just been balling, straight balling.
Absolutely.
At sometimes even looks like the only guy in defense playing.
That
I had-
is
You know
what I
very
mean?
true.
I remember distinctly that I had him as my number 1 safety coming out.
Boom.
Ends up going in the second round. Craziness.
Yeah.
No one needed a safety, apparently.
But you know something? That's the other thing too about the draft is that brings up another topic, like safety position. It's not highly valued anymore.
No.
And there's no safety so far that's come out and said, "Oh, you got to get him in the top 5." All these safeties seem to be undervalued, much like running backs.
Yeah.
Where they're starting to. You might not see them in the first round at all, but you'll see them in the second round.
Yeah.
Well, I think some of the safeties that were picked early and maybe even again made some people steer away from that because even Derwin James has been good on the field, but when you get picked that early and then you're injured and stuff like that too, it ends up
Right.
being a problem.
Yeah, and Derwin James, to be fair, was picked in the middle of that first round because of his uncanny ability to cover and play the run and do everything extremely well. We haven't had a shut down type of safety since many years ago. Like when you had the guys like Ed Reed, when you had the guys like Sean Taylor, when you had those guys that were like, oh my God, you have Troy Polamalu. You have to take those type of safeties early, top 5, top 10. We're not seeing those type of safeties coming out, and I wonder if it's because, like you mentioned, like now they're not picking them that high.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's because there's certain players that could play that role and play that high level, but they choose corner because that's where the money's at.
Yeah,
They
well, you
choose
see a lot
different
of converts
positions
now,
So-
like Julian Love, how he
Right.
was a 4th-round corner who got converted to safety, and it
Or-
revitalized his career real fast.
Or you look at Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons played both safety and linebacker. Well, he's like, well, I think I'll do whatever you want, but I'll play. They felt comfortable with him playing linebacker. But imagine that, a 6'3", 240-pound safety
That
that
would
could
be
run a 4.4,
horrifying.
that could hit you, that could play the. That would have been something. But
Yeah.
whatever. I digress.
Maybe in the future.
Number 38, and this is one of your favorites.
Uh-oh.
Your Gross Matos.
Gross Matos,
Matos. I loved his name. It's about all I loved from the He hasn't exactly done a lot on the field.
Hasn't done a lot. I feel like he's been in and out of the lineup often.
Yeah.
And has only had 8.5 sacks for a pass rushing specialist.
Yeah.
So
Oh my God,
to me,
who
it's
the
definitely
hell
a miss with that
cares?
pick 38. And hopefully we'll see what happens because now there's a new regime there.
Yeah.
Maybe they change it up a little bit.
Yeah, maybe they cut him.
This pick right here was definitely a steal.
Oh, yeah?
Turned out to be anyway. From Miami at 39, Robert Hunt, guard. From
That's very
Louisiana, a guy that slid down because of the school he came from. This is kind of, sometimes this happens.
Yep.
And he didn't face really any tough competition. So we're not going to take him. Miami did. And now is a lock at starter and guard for them. And not just a very good guard, but also a guy that has the capability and potential. If he keeps developing the way he does, he's all pro easy.
Yeah. Yeah, we touched a little on it earlier when we were talking about guys, just those overthought prospects. We touched more on like this guy's underweight or this guy's a little undersized. And in this guy's case, it was just going to kind of the wrong school. You see kind of guys that'll hide in the back because they're like, oh, they went to this school. This year, the only guy in my like early scouting that I've seen that I'm like, this guy's getting a little overlooked because he was just at a bad college is Zay Flowers from Boston College.
Yeah. Yep.
'Cause they're just not a good college football team, but he is a great player. But I don't
Right.
know when we're going to see him get drafted because he is small and he's coming from a bad team. So we'll see.
Yeah. Jimmy, what do you got to say about Robert Hunt?
Not much. I really don't care.
You don't care about it.
I wanted to talk about just the first round. I'm good.
All right.
Jimmy's like,
let me.
check that.
Good. I'm done.
I'm going to name a couple more that we may be surprised where they're picked. Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, yeah, I
He gets
forgot
picked
he
at
was-
41 for the Colts.
Forgot he was in this.
That to me is like
Oh, yeah,
a
that's a
steal
good
and a
one.
half.
Yeah.
Steal and a half.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Maybe I'll switch my Clyde Edwards now, remembering that Jonathan Taylor was
Oh,
in this draft.
yeah. Clyde Edwards, he's an absolute hit. He's a stud.
I didn't say absolutely. Anyways,
yeah.
putting words in my mouth. This show's just going to be you guys bullying me for like
Just
3 hours.
All right. One last one, and then we're out.
All right.
Pick 53.
Yep.
Eagles. Jalen Hurts.
That's a hit.
That's a big hit.
I was waiting for Jimmy to
That's
say
a hit.
that is an
Yeah.
absolute mess.
Boom. No, I know.
There was so many like question marks around Hurts coming out of college because they're like, is he that good of a passer? Is he even that good of a runner?
Right,
He was
right.
benched. Like there was a million question marks, and he silenced the doubters so fast. I was one of those doubters. I didn't think he was going to
Yeah.
be much, and he proved me wrong really fast. He's developed very nicely. He is a great quarterback. He stays healthy despite the fact that he runs hard when he goes. He does not like sliding. Now we'll see if it continues
he'll learn.
in his
No,
career.
yeah.
He's going to learn.
It takes one injury to learn real quick, but
That's right.
it just shows at any point in the draft, these hidden gems can pop up. We see
That's
every
right.
year.
That's right.
Third, fourth, even sometimes in the seventh, guys like
Oh, you know it.
these guys like Diggs,
Yep.
Thielen, they were guys that dove in the draft. Some didn't even get drafted.
Right.
Like, it's crazy to see. I can't wait to see what this year's
Yeah.
gonna bring as we get kind of more into our draft ranking shows
Right.
going.
Oh,
forward.
definitely gonna be surprised.
You know what's interesting
year?
about
That always
every
happens.
single year? What's really interesting about the draft is, despite all these rankings that we do, that the so-called experts do, all this stuff, this is all fun. This is like, it's exciting time of
it's a
year
blast.
where you have your team has an opportunity to get better or maybe do something to put you guys over the hump and get to the playoffs. So everybody is just like, can't wait to see what happens, who you get to draft. And then 3 years from now, come right back here and we're going to review everything. And we're going to take a look at what your team did.
Yep.
We've seen quite a few misses. We've also seen quite a few hits. So tune in next week. Are we going to do we want to do like any of the start doing the draft things next week?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I
we'll
think
get
we're-
into it again.
yeah,
like
we
Cody
only got-
said, there's only
we
a
got
couple
4
of
weeks.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
Four
until
more
it
I think-
shows
actually
until the
happens, so.
draft.
I think that's fair. I think we should start doing it, and maybe we do, I don't know, like, do we do like a few positions or do we do just offense and then defense? What do we?
We'll figure it out throughout
We'll do
the
a few.
week.
Yeah,
We'll
we'll
kind
figure
of
out during the week.
fine-tune
We'll
our
let
game
you guys
plan.
know out there. Absolutely.
Yeah, so tune in next week where
It
we
would be
start the
better-
draft.
Yeah, it'll be better than picking the Cinderella team of this year already. So.
Absolutely.
Before the draft even happens.
If you haven't done so already, please do us a huge favor. Please help us grow this football community of ours by heading over to YouTube. Go to our channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. You can also follow us on Facebook and take us anywhere on the go and be in the know. Anywhere you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it. Hit that follow button. Make sure next week you guys fully come prepared because we want to see comments down below, want to see questions like our boy Pro was doing, and even some of your opinions or whatever you want to talk about. Drop them down below. Like the video, share the video. Let's go, know-it-alls.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.